my channel and to today's video where I am going to be filming the mid-year book freakout tag for 2025. I know that everybody's saying it, but how are we at the middle of 2025? I've had a really interesting reading year so far, so I'm really looking forward to / anxious to talk to you about how things have been for me so far this year. The version of the tag that I do is a mixture of questions from 3 creators who I will have linked down below. That's Earl Grey Books, Is That Chammy and Katie Whitrock UK. I will have reordered them to what I feel makes narrative sense for me in the video, but the actual questions belong to those creators. Also will say, if my normal demeanour does not come across in this video, if you've watched any of my videos before, I apologise. I'm not feeling that great today, but I really need to film this video because it's already the 6th of July when I'm filming. So I apologise. My hair is also really doing its thing. I'm going to get a cut in a few weeks, thank goodness, because it's like an unpaid actor in these videos right now. I also haven't actually filmed in a few weeks. I've taken a week's break from YouTube, and then there were videos from before then that were pre-filmed, so I haven't done anything for a little while. So I'm a bit rusty, but hopefully you'll still enjoy this video. I also my eyes are crying from this from this light that I have on. Okay, that's a bit better. I can kind of see. So I've got the questions on my laptop. If you see me looking down, I'm also not going to go and navigate my shelves for the actual books because a fair amount of these are audio and Kindle, so I'm just going to put them up on screen for your enjoyment. Okay, so first up is, how has your reading gone so far this year? It's not been great, I'll be honest. I have not had a single 5-star. No 5 stars. Oh my god. It's really unbelievable to say that, but yeah, I genuinely have not had a single 5-star. I don't know what's going on. My mental health be doing its thing, and so I think that has an impact. I've maybe also been focusing too much on books I've needed to read for other reasons. And I talk about that in every mid-year book freakout tag where I'm like, I'm going to stop reading for book challenges or this, and apparently I never learned my lesson. So I do need to spend some time for the remainder of this year picking up books I enjoy. I've got a few challenges or commitments I need to get through for the month of July. I'm hoping to do some reading vlogs for July to get me through those, and then maybe I can do some actual mood reading for the second half of the year. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a weird video for me to film because it actually took me a while to go through the books and work out what could even fit in some of these categories, because whilst I've picked a favourite book for the year, I genuinely don't know if it is my favourite book of the year. So speaking of my best book of the year, I've decided to go for Business Casual by B.K. Borison. If this ends up being my favourite book of the year by the end of 2025, I'll almost be like kind of sad for myself. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think it's really good, but I know that it's not like a new all-time favourite in the way that my 5-star reads have been from the recent years, and so that's kind of what makes me a bit sad about it. But I also feel like very happy for this book that it's made this slot, because this is the 4th book in the Love Like Farm series, and I did not really enjoy 1, 2 and 3. Like they're like 3.5 star reads for me, and for whatever reason I decided I would not DNF the series and I would persevere, and oh my goodness, did Business Casual pay off for me. In general, this is an interconnected romance series where each of the books is set in a different season. So we start with the winter one and then work our way through background in the cycle. I know that a lot of people really love the first one, which is Stella and Luca's story, and yes, it is very cute, but I think honestly B.K. Borison has really grown into her writing, or has spent more time on editing, or whatever it is. But by book 4 it felt so much sharper to me than the writing in the first 3. So if you have read the others and you weren't sure about them, I really think it is worth persevering. I feel like the 4th one makes all of it worthwhile. Because these are all kind of following different friends or family members, I really do think you need to read these books in order, but I'll give you the like brief tropes of the 4th one. So we have Nova, who is the little sister of Beckett from book 2, and Nova is really not looking for love. She's really busy. She's opening her own tattoo studio. She just is not in a place where she wants to have a relationship. Charlie, who is a character that we meet from book 1, because that whole thing is a spoiler. Nova and Charlie have always kind of like danced around each other. They've always sort of had some interest in each other, quite flirty, quite bantery, but never acted on it. And this is a very small town, and so any decisions to sleep with each other would have consequences. But they're at a wedding and they have a dance together, and Nova thinks, okay, yeah, maybe. And she proposes to Charlie that maybe they do start something casual, and Charlie is like, no, I can't do that with you. And Nova really doesn't want to hear the reasons why. And actually, when she finally hears Charlie out, it's because he is really worried about something between them not being able to be that casual. Neither of them are really looking for a relationship. It has an impact on their family and on their friends. So he feels like it's probably not a good idea. But they convince each other that it is a good idea, and they start having a casual relationship. And then very quickly they work out that maybe things are not so casual for them. I just felt like the relationship growth between these two was great. These are two people that are kind of in their like mid to late 20s, transitioning from that I'm not looking for something more than casual to then realizing that actually they found their person. And what does that look like if you didn't expect to find your person? And is your life able to flex for that? Charlie especially has had a very complicated upbringing, and his ability to trust people is really lacking. This could have gone into like a major 3-act breakup, and the way that that drama in the 3rd act is handled actually felt really real and justified for where these two people are at in life. And watching these two realize that actually they do have feelings for each other was really good. I think the arc of their story was handled very well. It had really, really good pacing. Yeah, I just think this book is just great. So I'm really excited to read more from B.K. Borison now, because I feel like she's really found her stride as an author, and I've got First Time Caller somewhere on my shelf, and I'm really interested to get to that, because I now feel a lot more hopeful that B.K. Borison could become a favourite author of mine. So then the second question is the best sequel you've read so far this year, and this is another one. I think I've only given 3 books 4.5 stars, so this is one of the other 4.5 stars, which is Beg, Borrow or Steal by Sarah Adams. It may be, depending on the day, Business Casual and Beg, Borrow or Steal could be interchangeable, but I think Business Casual just peaks it ever so slightly, but Beg, Borrow or Steal is great as well. This is also an interconnected romance series, and again I really think you should read these ones in order, because especially by this one, so much of what's happening in the story is impacted by stuff that happened in book 1 and book 2. So in this one we have Emily, who is the eldest sister but not the eldest child in this family of 4, and their parents died when they were really young, and so a lot of the story is about the 4 of them like growing up and finding their place on their own. It's also a small town romance. It's got very similar vibes. But Emily is, by this book, starting to feel not needed, because some of her siblings are settling down, because we know that from book 1 and book 2, and then one of her other siblings is living off on her own in New York, and Emily's just like, what is my place and what am I doing here? And if my siblings don't need me, what do I do? And she's had this like hate, you know, kind of like banter fighting relationship with a guy called Jack, and Jack just ups and leaves. He gets engaged and just disappears without saying goodbye or saying anything, and Emily is really, really annoyed about that. But it also kind of combines with everything to be a catalyst of her just feeling like she doesn't know what her place is anymore. And then one day she's attempting to write a romance novel, and she, you know, she's just like, yeah, sat down working on that in a coffee shop, and Jack turns up and he's back with no warning. He's just here. And then it ends up that he buys the house next door to hers, and so then there's that kind of like hatred can carry on, and that rivalry can come back. But then, you know, they start to run into each other a lot. This is a very small town, and if you're living next to each other, things are going to happen. I loved this. I think this series is fantastic. I would recommend it to anybody. Again, I think Sarah Adams's writing is really developing through the series. It started as like a closed door romance, and now it's not, though admittedly not with like a ton of smart, but if you are kind of like, oh, you know, maybe I am somebody who does like the actual sex scene on page as payoff for constant flirting and banter, and that is how I feel. I think that this book has a good hybrid of not having too much, but it does have some. And I just really, really felt for Emily. Like, she is an older sister and I'm an older sister, and so there are certain things that only older sisters will understand, and so I felt like that was handled really well. Jack, like Charlie from the B.K. Borison book, has a very complicated life, and there's this whole thing with his dad, which again was handled really well. And I love being back in Rome, Kentucky, which is the small town. I just love the vibes. I love all of the side characters. This is, in my opinion, a town that feels very, very well developed. So yeah, I just loved it, and I'm really excited to read the 4th one. I think it's my favourite cover of all of them, and I'm going to be very interested to see how Maddie's story plays out in that one. So yeah, I think we're getting it in January, which is great. I'll hopefully pick that up pretty soon after it comes out. The next question would be best reread, but I have not reread anything So I'm not much of a rereader. I have some plans to reread some things, but at the end of the day, they just haven't come to fruition yet. So we'll move straight on. Okay, so next up we have Biggest Disappointment. And I have 2 books for this. These are not necessarily my least favourite books. They are my biggest disappointments. I feel like the categories are different. And actually, I don't think some of my least favourite books will make it at all in this video. So first up we have Fake It Till You Make It by Laura Carter. It hurts my soul that I did not enjoy this. I do have a full reading vlog for this up on my channel. If you want to check that out, I'll have it linked down below. This is a fake dating romance. So if you don't know me, this is my favourite romance trope, is fake dating. I know it's ridiculous, but I just love it. And Abby is basically has this like Warner and Elle from Legally Blonde moment where she's convinced that she's going to get proposed to, and then her boyfriend dumps her in a restaurant, and she has, as is completely justified, a mental breakdown basically, and decides to spend all of her savings and buy this really, really expensive apartment in New York. She moves in there and she runs into who she expects to be a baseball player, and they do not get on straight away. They make really, really snap physical judgments about each other, decide that they cannot be friends, but they keep running into each other. And then for whatever reason, the guy decides to kind of not fake date at this stage, but to like pose as her boyfriend when her ex ends up dating somebody in the same apartment complex. He just like steps in straight away and is like, yeah, hi girlfriend, kind of thing. And you know, they then keep running into each other and then agree that they will formally fake a date because Abby is having to go to a meal that her ex will be at, so he agrees to come to that and agrees to go to her parents' vow renewal. Not really sure why he agrees to it. I'm sure there is a reason, but I can't really remember why. Anyway, the reasons why I did not like this book is A, I don't think that the writing is developed enough. I am very particular about writing styles, and this book it needed more editing, it needed more development. Like chapters would end just being like, and then they went to the park, move on. It just didn't have that like sort of enticing reading style that I personally need to get through something. And also my main issue was that it was just so judgmental. Like these were characters that honestly just shouldn't have ended up in a relationship together. I don't think they really liked each other. They were so judgy. Ultimately, they had misjudged each other. Abby was expecting that Ted is a baseball player, and actually it turns out he's posing as his brother and he's actually this tech guru. And so then it's all about how like, oh, people can love you even if you're a tech guru. Like, of course people can love you even if you're a tech guru. Maybe I didn't get it because I'm married to a tech person, so to me that is an attractive thing about somebody as opposed to a baseball player, and so maybe I just didn't get the general premise of what this was trying to achieve. But also Abby was like really dressed up the first time Ted meets her, and so he's like, I cannot date her because she looks like a supermodel, she's going to treat me poorly, like his fiance's just left him. Or I cannot be with somebody that looks like my fiance, she's going to be exactly the same. It's just constant judgment, and it's really uncomfortable, like the judgment for somebody because they wear fake eyelashes. I just think this book is just not pleasant. It's just not nice, and I wouldn't have read the whole thing if it weren't for the fact I was buddy reading it for this vlog. But what I will say is that Liz really enjoyed this book, so please go and watch the vlog because you'll get a really balanced view. And you know, I actually really don't like going in really hard on books, and if I had DNF'd this I wouldn't have been quite so opinionated on it, I guess. I just kept reading it because it was for the buddy reading vlog. So yeah, unfortunately that is like my #1 disappointment. But I will give my second disappointment to How to Date a Prince by Hayden. Somebody had the arc for, and was a book that I was really excited was coming out this year, and then I was really excited to get approved for the arc, and the cover looks like it's going to be like a mix of Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston and the Boyfriend Material series by Alexis Hall. These are 2 of my favourite books of all time. So I was like, this is going to be perfect. It's like the amalgamation of these 2. And unfortunately, this was just not for me, and I did DNF at 50%, which is way later than I would normally DNF. I really tried because I wanted to love this book. But unfortunately, I don't think that the writing style is great. The pacing of the interactions between the 2 main characters, we had Oggy, who's Prince of England, though I think at one point it referred to him as the Prince of Denmark, but anyway, Prince of England. And then Thomas, who is like the son of an American businessman, and they run into each other at a bar. They do not get on, and Oggy doesn't want anyone to know he's gay, and Thomas is quite openly gay, so Oggy pretends to be with his best friend Katie, but that all happens kind of poorly and Thomas gets really annoyed. And then the King of England puts Oggy on a reality show, which I think was kind of like Bake Off. I'm not actually really sure what the reality show was trying to achieve, but puts him on this reality show, which there's no way that the future king of our country would go on a reality show. There's just not. Anyway, he goes on the show and Thomas is a contestant, and so then even though they then immediately hate each other, the relationship develops incredibly quickly without kind of any sort of like arc or pacing, and then suddenly they're a thing, and then they keep like getting together and breaking up and getting together and breaking up within the same chapter. I could not follow this. It was like constant whiplash. So I'm so gutted that I didn't like this, because I felt like it was going to be one of my favourite books of the year, and I'm just generally gutted it didn't work for me. But, you know, it does still have a lot. It comes out on like the 15th of July. So, you know, it will go out there, I'm sure, because it's got a really cute cover and it really gives the vibes of a lot of books that are popular. So definitely have a read of other reviews, because there are people that did still really like it. Unfortunately, just not for me, and I'm so sad about it. Okay, next up is biggest surprise, and I normally will do like a biggest surprise good and a biggest surprise bad. So for biggest surprise good, I've gone for Spoops, The Little Spirits of Halloween by AJ Locascio. I apologise, AJ, if I've pronounced your name incorrectly there. I got this as an ARC from NetGalley. I think it comes out in August, and it is a children's like picture book, graphic novel style story. It is about a little girl called Holly who's in love with Halloween, but her parents hate it. They're dentists, so why would they get behind a holiday that promotes eating so much candy? So even though Holly feels in her heart that she is meant to love Halloween, her parents are like, absolutely not. On one Halloween, they go to a dentist conference and Holly makes a wish on a carved pumpkin, and these little spoops, these little Halloween characters, come to her rescue, and they turn her house into this perfect Halloween house. And all of the like town come to her house and spend time with her and celebrate Halloween with her. And then when her parents get back, the spoops will they kind of magic her parents to convince them that actually Halloween is not so bad and it doesn't have to all be about candy. It's so cute. The art is stunning. The colour scheme is all orange, white and black. It's all in rhyme, and I described it in my review, which the author really liked, so that was really cute. But this is The Grinch, but for Halloween. It's just like the rhyming and the quality of the rhyming, I think, is as good as in The Grinch, and it has the same vibes. So I think if you have a child that is a really big fan of Dr. Seuss, maybe not so much the person, but the rhyming style and stuff of the Dr. Seuss books, then I think that this would be like a perfect read. Obviously, I'm not a child, I'm an adult, and I still really enjoyed this. The double page spreads are stunning. Like, I really love graphic novel art, and the double page spreads in here are just beautiful. It wasn't perfect on my e-reader because the pages were in like a slightly annoying order, so the double page spreads were getting cut off, so I couldn't see them in their full double page glory. So I will be looking for a physical copy of this book when it comes out. I cannot recommend this enough. I think if you're a fan of Halloween, if you're a fan of like really cute, wholesome reads, like maybe like the Tea Dragon Society, like similar vibes, yeah, I really loved this, and I just didn't know that I was going to love it as much, so that's why I'm putting it in this category. And then my biggest disappointments, negative, were two books by authors I have previously really enjoyed, and that was why I was so sad about these. So first up, we have Booked for the Summer by Catherine Freeman. I've read a book by Catherine Freeman before. It was the very first ARC I got from NetGalley, so to not enjoy this one, which was also an ARC from NetGalley, was just like gut-wrenchingly upsetting, especially as the principal of this one I thought I would really enjoy. So Jade ends up getting a job in Nantucket. It was meant to be the Maldives, and it should have been the Maldives, but anyway, in Nantucket, to run a bookshop, which is something she has no skills in. She does work in like book publishing, but as an admin assistant, but these are, you know, different things. But she, for whatever reason, gets hired to go and run a bookshop, and it's on like an area of Nantucket which is going under a lot of development, a lot of investment, and Liam, who is a billionaire, is basically trying to like build a load of resorts there, and so he's trying to get rid of the little bookshop so that he can build this giant resort. And we learn through the story that Liam was treated really badly by the other people who lived in Nantucket. They like really judged him for coming from a poor background, and so he's trying to get back at them by becoming really rich and building this like massive resort. These two sleep together on day one, not a spoiler, on day one, and then end up like you know, their relationship is then impacted by the fact that ultimately Liam is trying to get rid of Jade's bookstore, and she didn't know that when they slept together. So yeah, my issues are Jade did not have the skills to have gone and worked in the bookshop in the first place. She needs so much help to run it, and in that way that little small towns do, everyone rallies around her and decide that they're going to help her, but it's difficult really to see why they do that, other than to get back at Liam, I suppose. But so that is just a sort of like weird part of it. Jade is a blonde with big boobs, and so a lot of it is about like image and not wanting to be seen as like a tart, and I totally get that and respect that. And it was then just like this constant back and forth of like, oh, I've slept with somebody on the first date, but I'm trying to not be that person. And it was just so much about like image and how people see her, even though nobody over there did see her like that. I felt that Nantucket just wasn't the right setting for this. I actually think the Maldives would have worked so much better, because a lot of it is about like falling in love with Nantucket. And no offense to Nantucket, but it's very clearly, like the author says it at the end, it was written to be at the Maldives, and it just reads like a Maldives book. And I think the kind of summer romance it's trying to be would make more sense in the Maldives. Liam has a massive backstory in this, in the way that all of the male main characters I'm talking about in this video do. I just think that he ultimately wasn't a very likable person, and I don't think that redemption arc really went that well. But I think my main issue was just the pacing. Like these two, it was so insta love. I just couldn't get on board with them. We went through all of the will they won't they, and the like many breakups, given that they only knew each other for like a 3-month period. And I just was like, should these two be together? I'm not sure about that. So yeah, genuinely gutted to not like this one, because I really love the other book that I read by Catherine Freeman. So yeah, it was really sad. The other biggest disappointment is The Rebound by Catherine Walsh. Holiday Romance, is that what it's called? Is, in my opinion, a masterpiece by Catherine Walsh. It's one of my favourite books ever. And I was so gutted to not love this one as much. I just felt it was a very different vibe. Like, in Holiday Romance, it's this really cute best friends to lovers, and the communication is handled really well, and the arc of their relationship is handled really well. And then in this one, we have Abby, who basically, her workplace has gone under, her fiance has left her. She decides to move back to Ireland to be with her sister, and just for like a break. And I think that's great. Got some bits of Ireland, because Catherine Walsh, I think, must be Irish, because all her books are Irish. Got some bits of Ireland, but not as much as we did in Holiday Romance. And then this is a friends to lovers in a way, or a second chance romance, because Luke is her childhood best friend, and they then sort of like rekindle their relationship and then try and work out if they could be something, when Abby is trying desperately to get back to New York and Luke is trying to figure out like whether he could be with her through that. The major issue I had with this one was the miscommunication, which was just strong. It was really, the whole way through was just really miscommunication heavy. And I just wanted to like shake these two the whole time. And especially at the halfway point, I wanted to scream at the fact that these two weren't communicating. And so it just was like really hard to get through this one. So again, I'm really gutted. I gave both of these 2.5 stars, by the way. It's not like they're like really bad books, but it's just I wanted to love them so much more, and they disappointed me because I have loved books by these authors previously. Next one is Book That Made You Cry, and I'm gonna go for Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I was very lucky to get the arc for this. I know it's a massive release this year. The cover is stunning, and this is my first full-length Ashley Poston. I've really enjoyed a novella by her before, but this was my first full-length because I'm that random person that hasn't yet read The 7 Year Slip or Dead Romantics, despite the fact I'm sure I would love both of them. So this one is a music one. So I was expecting to love this because I'm a musical person. I have a degree in musical theatre, so I was sort of expecting this would be the one for me. We have Joni, who's a songwriter, and she is really struggling because her mum has been diagnosed with dementia, early onset dementia, and she's finding that really hard, and it's really impacting her ability to write songs. And she goes to watch one of the singers that she writes for in a concert, and she's sitting in the like private area, and a pop star, ex-pop star called Sebastian is up there, and she is kind of attracted to Sebastian, but also his personality is not particularly attractive at this point, but they end up chatting and flirting a bit, and they kiss. She then is like, no, that was a massive mistake, I've got to go, leaves, and she decides to go home to be with her parents for a little bit of a break, spend some time with them, but also, you know, to feel like she is contributing. She feels like she's not being particularly helpful while her mum is, you know, going through this diagnosis, but also she can't work, so why is she staying in LA? So she heads back. She gets back there and realises she can hear a male voice in her head, And she is not sure who this male voice is, but he becomes a comfort to her. He's there for her. He talks her through things. She has very loud thoughts while she's worried about her mum, and this male voice is, you know, providing a lot of guidance and support. But ultimately, he is still in her head. And she realizes that, they realize that maybe this is not right. They maybe shouldn't be able to hear each other. So they agree to meet up, and this voice says, I can come to you. And when he arrives, it then turns out to be Sebastian. And it seems like through this kiss that they have then opened up the ability to be able to hear each other's thoughts. They both can also hear a melody, and they recognize it's the same melody, and they think that maybe if they write this song and put it out into the world, that will fix this situation. So it's magical realism. I've not really read any magical realism before, and I thought that this was really unique. I've not read anything else like this. Watching Joni and Seb realize their feelings for each other was really nice. I think that Ashley is a great writer, and this was handled really well. What I also really liked is that Sebastian is not like traditionally attractive. He's not really that tall, and he kind of has this like ex rock star look to him. He's not like a, you know, like 6 foot, really beefy, kind of brown haired, blue eyes type, which is what we get in a lot of romances that I read. So I really liked that. And ultimately, like, Sebastian has a complicated personality, and watching Joni kind of like wade her way through that was actually very interesting to read. I put this book in the category for made me cry. I mean, it is a heavy subject matter. The fact that Joni's mum has early onset dementia, and that is a major feature of the book. So definitely a trigger warning for that. But ultimately, I think like anybody would feel emotional, even if you're not a crier, but I think anybody would feel emotional reading this book, because just watching the heartbreak of Joni and her family going through that, very sad. I gave this book 4 stars. It's not, for me, it's not like a perfect new favourite, I think, because Joni was quite selfish through a lot of the diagnosis of her mum having dementia, which is very interesting to read. I think you know, having had like a parent go through cancer treatment, people don't actually realize the impact it has on you as well as like the person that's actually getting unwell. And so that was interesting, but it was a very selfish portrayal of how Joni was dealing with this, and I just found that quite difficult to read at times. But I just felt it wasn't like a new favorite, but I did really enjoy this, and I think fans of Ashley Poston will probably really enjoy this. I think also it wasn't the sort of music that I particularly listen to, and it's a real love letter to like the Beatles, and I mean Billy Joel, and I'm a big fan of Billy Joel, but it's a real love letter to pop and rock music from like the 70s and 80s, and that wasn't really my era of music. But I think if you are a big music fan, you will also really, really love that element of it. Then the next category is book that made you happy, and I've decided to go for The Air Affair by Jasper Fforde, which I also gave 4 stars because, as we know, I've had a funny rating year. This is a really unique series. Jasper Fforde is a really unique writer, and Shades of Grey is one of my favourite books of all time by him, and it's still the series that I would recommend the most of his. But The Air Affair, I think, maybe is more accessible for people generally. I don't know. In this one, we have Thursday Next. That's her name. And Thursday is a literatech, which is basically she like looks after books and makes sure that nothing happens to them. There's no like damage made to them. And I don't mean like physically, I mean like to the text. This is like a real kind of like dystopian magical version of our world. And we find out that there is this evil person called Acheron Hades who is disappearing into books to mess with them, to steal characters or to change the plot, and he ends up going into Jane Eyre to kidnap Jane. So Thursday finds herself not just doing her like normal admin job, but actually being promoted to become like somebody who needs to go into these worlds to try and save characters. And that's how the series progresses from here. I think book 1 is great. It's really interesting. It's really unique. As with Jasper's other books, I've not read anything else like this. It's a real love letter to English literature, especially to classics, because those do not have any like rights to them. So Jasper can just use them in books. I have not really read any classics, and I'm not somebody who like even watches films of classics. So for those elements, I did feel like I was missing parts of the story. So I think if you are somebody who loves books, you love classics, you love English literature, if you did an English literature degree, I think this is probably almost the perfect series for you, because whilst also having all of that character stuff, it also has really like funny takes on like books and reading and editing and publishing, and again, you would know a lot more about that if you have an English literature degree. So yeah, I haven't loved the others in the series as much as I love book one. I was trying to binge read them so that I could meet Jasper at an event a couple of weeks ago, and I only made it through 4 of the books, but I felt I could follow enough for him doing that meet and greet. And it had said online that he was going to be reading a part of book 8, which is the book that's coming out later this year. Thankfully, he's not really finished it yet, and so we didn't get that. And so instead he just spoke about his books generally, and that meant it was a lot more accessible for me. So whilst I don't really know whether I plan to finish this series from here, book 1 was just so fun and I did have a great time, and that's why I felt that it was the book that I would use for this prompt. Next up, we have a book that you enjoyed with mixed reviews, and I'm going to go for Wisteria by Adeline Grace, which is the 3rd book in the Belladonna series. I really enjoy this series, and this was a book where I felt that maybe if I wasn't in this weird reading place that I'm in, maybe I would have given this 5 stars, but I think I gave it 4.5. I personally really recommend these books on audio in particular. I just think the audiobook narrator is fantastic, and I've purchased a few other audiobooks where she's the narrator just because I know that I love her audiobook narration so much. So I won't go into masses of details about the series as this is the 3rd one. This is a fantasy romance series. Book 1 follows Signa, who feels completely plagued by death, and she gets like moved around a load of houses during her childhood, and every time people are dying and everyone's starting to look at her as like this omen of death. And then she's put into kind of like the final place she can go with the last of her family, and there is her cousin Blythe, and Blythe is dying, and Signa just feels so awful about this and feels like she would do anything for Blythe to not be the one that dies. And this chain of events sparks things that happen even through to book 3. I think that actually book 1 and book 3 are really, really connected, and I had taken a gap between each of the books, and I actually think my reading experience of Wisteria would have been improved if I had reread book 1 and book 2. I just think like we literally pick up book 3 immediately where we left book 2, and then it's so linked to things that happen in 1 and 2. So I think if you're going to read this and haven't started them, wait until 3.5 is out at Christmas, which is called Holly, and then binge the whole thing. I think it's a series that could be binged. As I say, the audiobooks are great, and I just think that you will serve yourself better by binging them than do what I did. Or if you've taken a gap, I would recommend that you reread or watch some videos that recap them or something on YouTube. I did still really enjoy this one. Again, I can't really talk about it without going into spoilers, but basically this one follows Blythe. So I would say like book 1 is Signa, book 2 is sort of Signa then Blythe, and then book 3 is Blythe. And I like really like Blythe's story. I really like where it goes. I really like what happens with fate in this one. But a lot of people did not like the ending, and I can see why. I think that this book is really different from 1 and 2. The other 2 are steamier, and this one is really not. And it makes a choice halfway through the book that really ends up being something very different than what I think any of us were expecting. I still really liked that. So that's why I felt this book could go in this category, but I really have read a lot of reviews where people did not like it, so it felt like the right one for this. But this is a series I would really recommend if you like things that are like gothic as well. Yeah, it's just a great series. And the next category is favourite new author, and I've decided to go for Christy Boyce, who wrote the Dungeons and Drama and Dating with Dragons, I think are what the 2 that are out so far. These are YA romance books that have like a Dungeons and Dragons angle to them. So the first one, we have a fake dating romance between a Dungeons and Dragons player and a musical theatre kid, which is like literally my husband and I. Not fake dating, but it's like literally me and him. And then book 2, there is no musical theatre sadly, but book 2 is like a different Dungeons and Dragons group, but we have a new girl who arrives to town, and she's really worried about making friends, but she gets invited to join a Dungeons and Dragons group, and then she falls for Logan, who is the like main guy who's running. I don't know if he's DM, but regardless, anyway, and I'm pretty sure he's not, but he's the one who's kind of like the catalyst of their whole group. And they end up developing feelings for each other, but they have a very, very clear no dating rule because it has a big impact on, you know, if they then break up, that breaks up the group. And so it's then about them figuring out whether they can have a relationship. I think these are so cute. They are really fun. They're really quick reads. I personally do like teen angst. So like that is a caveat that I will give if you are somebody of my age, like in your 30s watching this video, and you might not like teen books. I really like teen books. So I just felt like it's really cute. I really got it, like what they were going through. I really liked in the first one, I can't remember her name, but where like the main character, she gets in like massive trouble with her parents because she sneaks away to go and watch a regional production of Waitress. Like I just felt like she could speak to me on my level. Not that I've ever misbehaved like that, but these are just really cute and really fun. The covers are gorgeous, and I really hope that we're getting more in this series. Christy's actually written quite a lot of books, so maybe I'll go and check out some of her backlist, but this series like speaks to me, so I would really like some more of them. So then for your newest fictional crush, which I love a book boyfriend, so I had to pick through the wonderful men that I've read in the romance books I've read this year. I've decided to go for Derek from the Rule Book as a chance to talk about a different Sarah Adams. So this is a duology. The first one is a like NFL ballet romance, which I'm a ballet girly, so I really enjoyed the first one, but I actually think this one is better written. It shows the development of Sarah's writing. We get the steamy scenes on page rather than being a closed door romance by the time we get to the Rule Book. So again, it was more satisfying in that sense. In this one, we have Nora, who wants to become a sports agent, and she finally is like given a chance to have her first client, and it ends up being her ex-boyfriend from college, Derek, who is best friends with, he's probably called Nate from the, because they're all called Nate from the first book. And Derek has like never got over Nora. He was so hurt when they broke up at the end of college, and he's been really grumpy and difficult to be around since then. And he does not want Nora to be his agent at all, but ultimately ends up agreeing. But they have a series of rules that they need to follow to make this professional relationship work. The reason that I love Derek is like he was just so in love with Nora. Like it's so obvious. Like even when at the beginning of the book he's so annoyed that she's back in his life, he just never got over her. And seeing that like love come through, and like the miscommunication that they had back in college was handled like really well. Like I mean, you know, that's when miscommunication feels justified, is when you're like 21 as opposed to in your late 20s or your 30s. And Derek just looked after Nora so well. There's this like big thing that happens, and the way that he deals with that and make sure that Nora's career is not impacted. It's just really cute. It's just a really, really good book. Really enjoyed this. I thought I gave it 4.5, and I appear to have given it 4. But it probably is a 4.5. Another thing that I really loved is Derek has dyslexia, and he's been really, really anxious about telling anybody about that. And I really loved sort of seeing the like recognition that he goes through of actually his dyslexia does not have to define him, and it can be something that he can, you know, work through and really be like a superpower. And I just, yeah, he's just wonderful. This book is lovely. Next one is your new favorite character, and I've decided to go for Liam from Fourth Wing. So I've read both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame this year. I have not read Onyx Storm, so please do not spoil anything for me in the comments. I obviously can't really talk massively about Liam because that has like massive spoilers, energy and things, but I will just say I love Liam. I think that like one day maybe I'll post the clips from when I was reading Fourth Wing and I was voice noting Beth plans about Liam, and it's just kind of funny to like listen to like how I talk about Liam in that. I think he's great, and I think the character development that he goes on and the impact that he has on the story, he's so hard to talk about without not spoiling anything, but the impact that he has on the story, just couldn't not. He's just my favourite character in the series. I also wanted to give another honorary shout out for Yuri from I Think Our Son Is Gay, which is a manga series about a mum who is realising that her son is probably gay, but it's not really accepted in Japanese culture. And so she's sort of struggling with like how to deal with that. And also he's not come out to her or anything. So is he actually gay, and what would that mean for him if he was or wasn't? And Yuri is the main character's brother, and he is just like really honest and sharp, and he gets like a whole star from me when I read those manga books, because he just is really like to the point. He's really no nonsense with his brother, but also like I just read the fourth one, and in that one like a lot of girls really fancy Yuri, and they'll feel like he's leading them on, and he's like, but why can't guys and girls just be friends? And like, why does it always have to mean something more? Like, I don't know. He's just great. I think he's just a really like insightful character in those series. I just love him. Okay, so then that's like all the stuff I've read, and so the rest of the questions are about what do you still need to read and all that kind of thing. And this is a lot of like completely shaming myself. But the first one is a release from the first half of this year that you want to read but haven't. So I think probably my number one is Lore Olympus 8. So I haven't read 6, 7 or 8, but from day of filming this, I finally got my hands on number 8 yesterday. It hasn't been in my local Waterstones, but we went to a different town yesterday and managed to find it. So I would really like to binge read these because in my opinion, Lore Olympus actually benefits from being binge read rather than waiting. And not that we wait that long between novels. Rachel Smythe is like really pushing them out. And I thought she was meant to be taking a break due to burnout. But yeah, I think that these are books that are just better served from reading in like a closer period of time. So I'm really looking forward to binging those now I've got my hands on number 8. Also haven't read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, but I also haven't read Happy Place or Funny Story. I wait for them to come out on paperback. So Great Big Beautiful Life won't get read this year. It would be great if I read one of the other two. I mean, that would be progress, but don't fit for this category. And then Problematic Summer Romance by Ali. The fact that Ali has been run off the internet is like really, really breaking my soul right now. But anyway, I hope that she will be back. I haven't read Problematic Summer because I have not read Not in Love. It is the only Ali I have yet to read, and this is a sequel to that one. So I need to read Not in Love and then read Problematic Summer Romance. But I love Ali, so I'm sure that I will love those, but I just need to get to them. Then we have Backlist books you haven't read but have been putting off, and I'll give the same reaction that I did in last year's video to this one, which is I have a lot of unread books on my shelves. The number one I'm going to say is Mistborn, which was still my number one last year. I have been in the middle of Mistborn for like well over a year, and by middle I mean in the middle of like chapter 3. I really want to be a Brandon Sanderson fan, but I just have major big book fear, and it's really hard because my husband, like every time I'm like, what shall I do, he's like, read Mistborn. It like really is very yeah, I'm not being a very good wife right now because I haven't read it, and I'm sure I'll love it. I just, yeah, my reading is not in the right headspace for Mistborn right now, but I would love to say I'll get to it by the end of this year. I no longer feel optimistic of that, but it is the number one answer for this question anyway. Then we have books that you need to read before the end of the year. So in my 2025 reading journal setup, I showed my like 25 books to read in 2025, and I think I've read 2 or 3 of them. So any of the books on there would be a good answer for this, because they're all books I'm excited to read. But there are also, in addition to those, a few books where like sequels are coming out or I'm getting special editions of them, and so I really need to read them to decide whether or not I should be cancelling pre-orders. So the first one is I really need to read, what is it called? Is it like Rebound? I can't think. I'm going to put it on screen because I cannot think of the name. But Uncharmed, which is the second one, comes out later this year. And I think these editions are beautiful. I have the Waterstones special editions and they are stunning. And the second one is like one of the prettiest books I've ever seen. So I don't want to cancel it, but I have not read the first one. So it would be great if I could get to the first one, but it's an autumnal read and we're in like the heights of summer and I'm currently like boiling and my hair is frizzing in my conservatory while it's like 30 degrees outside. So yeah, I don't know, but hopefully that one. I also need to read A Tempest for Tea because again, the sequel for that is coming out later this year and I have it pre-ordered, but because it's from Waterstones, I can cancel the pre-order. And then another one is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig because they are beautiful. The Waterstone special edition is stunning, but it's £30. And I have the Fairy Loot edition and I don't have the second one, only the first one. And I think it is one of the most boring editions Fairy Loot has ever done. It's like just got a plain sprayed edge, which frankly I could have got from anywhere. So I would actually much prefer to get the Waterstones edition, but I don't see the point in getting it if I don't love the book. So those are some books I really need to get to. I've also got some ARCs I haven't read, so I really need to get to those. I'm hoping that they'll be what I get done in my July reading vlogs, but we'll see. Then in terms of releases that I'm most excited for in the second half of the year, I think my number one is Mate by Ali Hazelwood, which is the sequel to Bride. I think that Bride is fantastic. It was absolutely one of my favourite books of 2024, so I can't wait to read Selena's story. Selena? I can't remember, Serena. I can't wait to read her story and see what happens with that, and the cover is stunning. There's also Worth Fighting For, which is the next in the Meant to Be series, which is a Disney retelling series of the princesses, and each one is written by a different author. Tangled Up in You, which was written by Christina Lauren, was my favourite book of last year. Obviously, because the authors change every time, the books can be really hit and miss, and I have loved some of these in the series and really not liked others. So I'm very interested to see what I think of this one. Is by Jessie Kusutanto, who I've read a book from before and enjoyed, and this is the Mulan retelling. So I really need to get it for this. I'm just waiting for the works to bring it out. I don't know if we're getting Heartstopper 6 this year, but if we are, then Heartstopper 6. But I always don't, you know, I'm anticipating it. I'm waiting for my little purple book to join my shelves. If it's not purple, I will be genuinely devastated. But also, I don't want it to come out because it will be the end of Nick and Charlie's story. So we're fine. Alice, we can wait. It's not a problem. And then my last answer for this is When Gavin Met Stacey, which is a biography from Ruth Jones and James Corden, which is about the story of Gavin and Stacey. And given that there was a lot of drama around this series, and then we finally got the Christmas special last year that ended everything, I love Gavin and Stacey, and I think this will be really interesting. It's a story that I would really like to read, so I'll add that one to this list as well. Then another one is 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. So basically anything by Ali and anything by Emily Henry basically would be what I would put in this category. I've also got some Abby Jimenez. I would love to read some Abby because I've only read novellas by her, and I think I would probably give her 5 stars. So yeah, honestly at this stage, I would just like to give anything 5 stars. So if I could get 1 5-star by the end of the year, that would be a miracle. It's so weird because last year I had 10 5-stars, and the idea that I won't have any is just heartbreaking. Another book I would really like to get to is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, because I love The Martian, and then I didn't know we were getting a movie of Project Hail Mary, and now we are, and the trailers are out, and I'm worried that things will start to get spoiled for me. So I think I will pick that one up on audio before the end of the year, and I would like to think I'll give that one 5 stars. I would have put Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid in here, but I have just read it and gave it 4 stars, so talk more about that one in my June reading wrap up. So then we have Most Beautiful Books that you've received this year. I'm going to find them because I think I know my answers for this. In fact, I think this is probably my number 1, so I think this is the one I'll show, which is Immortal by Su Lin Tan. This is the Waterstones edition, and I think just Waterstones really knocked it out of the park with this one. It's not particularly exciting like underneath, but the cover and the sprayed edge is just absolutely gorgeous. And I've not really bought any Fairy Loot books this year. I'm not subscribed to Fairy Loot right now. I've not particularly bought any editions. So yeah, I think this is going to be my number 1, because how amazing must it feel to be Su Lin Tan and for every single one of your books to get a stunning edition like this? I cannot imagine how that feels. It's so amazing. So yeah, I absolutely love this. I've not read anything by Su Lin Tan, but I own Daughter of the Moon Goddess and Heart of a Sun Warrior, which I would have loved to have got to this year, but I'm no longer optimistic I'll read anything this year. Just beautiful. They just look so good all together. You will have been able to really obviously see there that I'm in pyjama bottoms. I realised this question I should probably move it earlier next time for next year. But anyway, this one is, what is your favourite adaptation of a book or TV show that you've read this year? And I have not read any. But I am in the middle of Jurassic Park, so I'm reading that for the first time, and I just rewatched the film very recently because my friend Natalie and I and our partners are doing a dinosaur day later in the year, so we're really excited for that. So I'm reading Jurassic Park in anticipation. But I will say, I think that the question is like, what's your favourite adaptation of a book? And so therefore I'm going to say Jurassic Park, because this is the adaptation we all required. I'm not saying the book is bad, and I'm only halfway through, but I just think the movie is so much better than the book. And obviously I'm very grateful to Michael Crichton for having the idea in the first place, but the movie is just really, really good. And I've only seen it twice. Like, this is the second time I've watched it, and it just holds up really well, despite the fact it came out many years ago. It's just a really, really, really good movie with a really, really, really good story. And so yeah, I'm glad I have that answer for this. I also thought this would be a nice place just to talk about The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop, because ultimately the Gilmore Girls is a massive thing that Kelly was involved in, and so if I get any opportunity to talk about the Gilmore Girls I will. But also this was like another book that was kind of like linked to media and this is a really great biography. If you've not read it yet, I would really recommend it. The audiobook is great. Kelly's a great audiobook narrator, and it's not really about Gilmore Girls. It's just the caveat I'll give you. If you're going into it expecting a load of like Gilmore Girls gossip, you will not get it here. But Kelly has lived a really interesting life, a very interesting career. She's had love and loss, and this is just a great biography. So definitely recommend. The next question is, do you think you'll reach your reading goal, or are you going to change it? So my reading goal for this year was 1 book, so nailed that. I actually don't know how many books I've read so far. I maybe should have said that at the beginning of this video. I've read 35 books, which is not bad. In the back of my mind, it would always be great if I could reach 100 books. I've done 100 for the last couple of years, and then before that I did 50. We're not going to hit 100 this year. There's literally no way I can make 100. I probably can make 50 though, and that would still be really nice. But honestly, I'm trying to really move away from having reading goals that are linked around the number of books that I read. I realised last year it was just not good for me. But then in an ideal world, my reading goal would be, doesn't matter how many you read, just read stuff you love. And that has not happened this year. So, you know, like the next question kind of moves into like, you know, do you have any new goals for the rest of the reading year? I would like to try and get to some of these books by authors I know and love and trust, in the hope that they are books I will love, but I am nervous about that. I'm nervous about whether the reading slump I'm in is affected by my mental health and whether that's having an impact on all the books I'm reading, or are the books just not as good as the 5-star energy books? I don't know, and I don't know how we're going to solve that. So yeah, I would love to get to some of the books I've mentioned here. I would love to get to some of those 5 stars. I would just honestly like to enjoy reading a bit more in the second half of the year. Funny mental health space means funny reading headspace, and I've not really been reading on my commute. I've not been interested enough in what I'm picking up to want to read. I've not been reading before bed. And so realistically, the fact I've read 35 books is kind of incredible, because I'm like, when have I even been reading to have got 35 done? But clearly I had a lot of books to talk about today. But yeah, it's just, I hope we can save the second half of the year. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Do let me know down below, what have you been reading? I want to know what's been your favourite book of the year so far. Please give me some recommendations. If you've had a 5-star that you think, based on my reading, especially basically if it's a romance, that's why I'm most likely to give it 5 stars. Sometimes a literary fiction, well, a sort of like contemporary, like a Taylor Jenkins Reid type book. If you've read something that you think I'll love, tell me in the comments. Let me find that 5-star. And if your kitten is Jez, you're going to say Miss Porn, and that's totally fine. I need to get out of this room because look at my hair. It is just growing and growing the longer this video goes on. Thank you so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate a like. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe. In the description, I will have a link to my Instagram and my Goodreads if you want to check out any more content from me, especially what I'm up to on a more sort of day-to-day basis. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.